So you better start doing it right. Better start doing it right.
Hi, I'm obviously Steve Hackett and not a lookalike hired by Armando Gallo. A couple of months ago, Armando called me up to take part in this book, which is a very highly interactive app. For fans of Genesis, it's going to focus on the Genesis biography that was so beloved of both the fans and also the band. So I'm going to be helping him, taking through various memories and contributing bits of music to it. And hope you guys really enjoy it. It's going to be quite a ride. Serendipity, if you like, but you know, I'm revisiting the 70s with my Genesis Revisited #2 album, never mind #1, and Armando's doing the same thing with this, so it's going to be really great. In a way, it's kind of in parallel with this. Really looking forward to the way that's going to pan out. Highly interactive, new technology. It's a learning curve for everybody, but I hope you're going to share those pages. You know, it's really definitive because Armando took those pictures whereby, because he was a friend, he wasn't really telling us to stand there and pose. We were just being ourselves.
Armando, the app is beautifully done.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And
Steve is the godfather of the app. That's what I write in the acknowledgement page. This is when I decided to write a book, really. When Peter was telling me that nobody was giving him any advance for publishing.
Right.
That's John Burns.
I think you're right.
what are your memories of John Burns, Steve?
Very nice guy, very lovely, very sweet, very supportive, very positive. He managed to save the day for Foxtrot, very important at the time. He inherited a bunch of tracks that he had, I think at that point, not actually worked on. In fact, it was Supper's Ready, we were playing back the opening stuff, great long 12-string section, and he said, I don't get a bad vibe off this, and that was very important because everyone needed to know that actually everything was all right. It was all hanging in the balance, all very precarious. We tried Bob Potter, and that hadn't worked out. You know. I got on with Bob, funnily enough, but it was like chopping cheese with everyone else, and so I just remember that John Burns was brought in, and he was just very, very positive, and I was very happy to work with him.
He had some unique techniques, some inventive techniques.
Yeah, he was very, very good. Well, I mean, he played guitar himself, so I think from that point of view, you know, he liked guitars, which helps, of course, when you're recording guitars to actually like them. If you happen to be a guitarist, it makes quite a bit of difference, which is why, you know, tracks like, or rather albums like Selling England by the Pound. It's probably no coincidence that the guitar's sounding good on that.
Because he elevated them.
Yes, I think so, yeah. I think he thickened it up. and made it sound really good. I'm still proud of it.
Well, we are too.
No doubt. Thank you.
Yeah, I heard that he was a very unique fellow and that he really saw out of the box. A lot of
Yeah, no,
stuff.
he was spectacularly good. Very good with sounds, very good unifying influence with the band, I think.
Well, it was interesting when he brought the mobile unit down to the glass plant,
Yeah.
where you recorded the Lamb. That was in Wales.
We kicked it off there. We didn't finish it yet. That was somebody else. We finished it at Island Studios in London, where it's now called Southwest. I think even that might be sold now.
No, like it's a Harry Potter movie.
Brian Eno was recording his record upstairs, and that's when Peter ran into him and talked to him about being him.
Now that's interesting. He came in and he did one day with us.
Yeah.
So that was important. He came in he did some voice treatments, some guitar treatments, and because he wasn't part of the team, it was nice that he wasn't restrained by any band politics. He just said what he thought and said, "Oh, do you want to try this? Try this. I've got this box. I've got that box." And he was just very enthusiastic, and we just had fun.
Well, you had to do a marathon session in mixing. You worked in teams of night and day.
Well, yes,
Hard to
I
remember
think the Lamb. There was so much to it. It was a double album. You know, all double albums are difficult. I think all double albums run, if not the whole team into the ground, certain individuals. There's no doubt about it. You can't function doing one without that. And it was not the smoothest, is all I can say, because we knew we were losing Pete. He said he was going to do the album, he would do the tour, and then he would leave. I thought I might be able to talk him out of that, but it was not to be.
Well, sometimes genius comes out of the crucible, isn't it? Correct?
Well,
The tough times.
yeah, I think there's no doubt about it. That, you know that I don't think Pete was anyone's yes man. You know, I still have tremendous affection and respect for him. And you know, it's an extraordinary thing for the band to have had him as a lead singer and bring for as long as it did. And then, of course, Phil was something else.
But you're missing the key. It was you, my dear.
Me? Well, thank you.
And the
That's
artistry and the
nice.
sophistication you brought.
Yeah, well, I tried to be subtle with Genesis because very often when you've got keyboards, bass and drums going, or keyboards 12-string and bass pedals, it can be a very impenetrable wall of sound. You've got to join it somewhere, so I was forced to be subtle. I could either join the bass, I could try and double the keyboard with something rhythmic, but I always thought, well, let's try counterpoint, let's try something which is not part of that, but is separate from the picture. So it forced me to scratch my head a lot, and it was extremely difficult. Sometimes I just do a little bit of a noise that would go in and out, you know, something rhythmic, and hope that people would notice that I was doing something that might be the rhythm part that would be played on a repeat echo on a one note. So just add to the propulsion of the track, but without trying to be heroic over the top of it. I had a few heroic moments with it, but I think of Genesis as being about the ensemble. It's about the overall sound. It's about a band sounding arguably orchestrated, self-orchestrated within itself. Some of those textures are very multi-layered and subtle.
You matched it, that word, the textures, the atmospheres. But that was not particularly your style coming in. You were pushed the internal envelope to create that in order to complement what already existed in the varying walls of that group.
Well, I think when I first joined, I got a feeling, I imagined I was only going to stay for a year or two at most, and I was brutally honest, I had no tact. And at times that was a very good thing, other times I'd get slapped down in no uncertain terms and think, oh, I better not stick my head above the parapet. But nonetheless, I did manage to get the band to do certain things, like get a mellotron, get a synthesizer, get a light show, present ourselves in a certain way, or at least that's what I thought I was doing single-handedly, because there was tremendous resistance.
Well, you were the one who called for the mellotron.
Well, I did.
And talk about signature sound.
Yeah. Well, I worked on them all like Chinese water torch. I thought if I repeat my requests, stroke interests to them individually enough, there'll be some. I'll be able to drill a hole through the rock. Sometimes it felt like 1,000 years to do that, but I think it was part of the not giving up approach, the dogged approach, the stealth approach, and I had some crazy idea that I was, if I couldn't be a guitar hero within the band, I'd be something like a crazy in-house producer who noticed all the things that everyone else didn't notice. That was the idea. I thought, I noticed the way Peter Sinfield worked with King Crimson was very interesting. He was a guy noting all sorts of things that bands don't internally. You talk to each other, but you're all seeing the wood. Who is seeing the trees? What's the big picture? So I used to sometimes sit back from that, and at the time, 1972, 73, when we started to get our own light show and rehearse with it, I used to go right out front, because we were able to afford, for some reason, to rehearse in theatres, do our production rehearsals in theatres before we were able to go out on the road. So I had this great long lead, so I could go and sit in the audience and watch what the band looked like and sounded like, so I could make comments to the light guy, I could make comments to the sound mixer, and I suddenly realised what it was all about. And I suddenly realised that after all this amount of trying, the band was really rather good and didn't actually look or sound like anyone else. Despite my attempts to perhaps push it in a certain direction, it found its feet in another kind of way. So we had these sort of ultraviolet strip lights, and so when you had the rest of the lights on, they all started to look either slightly ultraviolet or infrared, and it looked like you were watching a band, and it was almost like you were watching film. You were watching something that was at one stage removed. So I think that was a happy accident, but I'm sure I remember saying, well, why don't we leave those on, because that colour all the rest of the lights, and of course those things were notoriously fragile.
Yes, black lights usually work, but that's what
right.
caught your eye, your photographic eye.
That's right.
Well, in fact, what I remember Janis at the beginning of '72 was like they were playing like in a. There was like an invisible ghost in front of them, that's what I felt, and
yes.
And when the knife was coming through, there was Peter when he was pick up a mic stand and just, I feel like he was cutting through that invisible ghost, and the energy would go out into the audience and back, and that's when I really got into Genesis because before that they were very kind of still sitting down and stuff like that. There wasn't. The dynamic was always very much into the stage, but then and I do remember what you said about seeing a film was like that. The band was there, but it was very far away. So it took the knife to really for the energy to come into the audience. You know, at that point we all felt part of the band. You know, which was an incredible.
Yeah.
I don't know. It wasn't a trick. It was just what happened.
Yeah, Steve, did they use the knife generally as a show ender or encore because of the
yes, I can't remember whether it was the encore or whether it was the end of the show. I think it was the encore. It ended up being the encore.
Yeah, but it was the end of the show. When you were on tour with Charisma Tour, it was the end of the show.
And I've just started playing it again. I mean, within Genesis, we started to think that the number was kind of gauche. And they were always joking about it. But actually, I thought it had a real kind of energy to it. It was very straight ahead.
You just added it to your leg of Genesis Revisited.
I have, yeah.
And does it bring back certain memories?
Well, it does, yeah. There's a certain kind of heavy metal aspect to it. You know, it's a summation of what a number of bands were doing at that time. There's an aspect of the Nice, there's an aspect of Deep Purple, there's an aspect of Hendrix, there's an aspect of all sorts of things that are very un-Genesis. But in a way, the band really needed that at the time when so much of the music was acoustic in nature and audiences were not ready to accept that. So we need something that was very straight ahead rock and roll to win them over at the end. So it was always a case of, by the end of the set, it was a complete salvage job based around this one number. That used to clinch it. And the end of Musical Box and The Knife was what saved the band life in those early years. Those 1 or 2 years, 71, 72.
Well, it's a very testosterone-laden status of the song. No pun intended with The Knife, but it literally pierces you, much like the end of
aggression. There was that's when the folder when that guy walked up from everybody was sitting down. There would be people just popping up like champagne cork I wrote, at the time, because it was really, you couldn't stand still, that's how, that's when I noticed the band anyway.
Yeah.
You playing that picture, you are standing up, so you're playing The Knife for sure.
Yeah. It was written a year before I joined the band, but I enjoyed playing it live. And now, as we do it now, I try and do it as aggressively as possible. I like to think.
Well, you get a great reaction from it, just as you did in those days, right?
Well, as I say, the number's written by everyone else, but I kind of felt that it was, in a way, I don't want to stick my neck up, but I felt it was really all about playing it for me. It was something I felt. It was one of the reasons I joined the band. I thought I could do something with that. I thought I can give that something. I can give that an edge. And then I discovered it was in A flat. Try soloing in A flat. Even Rob says to me, A flat. I can't play in A flat. And it moves around. It's soloing in A flat minor. And it's not a guitar-friendly key at all. So it limits me tremendously to what I can do without open strings. There you are. And some of those keys were like that, keyboard-friendly keys. Musical Box in F sharp. F sharp again is not a guitar key for a guitar-based number. You might ask why.
One might ask why of a lot of the things.
Yes.
But Armando, the app is beautifully done. You had discussed doing the app a year and a half ago. That would have been 2012.
When I first heard that Genesis Revisited 2, I thought that we were on the same wavelength. He was going back to the early Genesis of the 70s, and I was going too. So I thought, wow, this is serendipity again, So we were doing the same thing in a way. We were moving in parallel lines. And it was great. He did the first video that I shot with my Canon camera, kind of professional. I shot it with Steve telling everybody about the project. That's why he's here as the godfather of this exciting work.
Well, there you go. It's extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you've been doing a lot of work for a long time. This is not just now this work for you. You've been taking bits of interviews that you've done over the years. So you've been archiving
Nick and
you've been doing that without anyone really realising that you were heading towards something like this.
To begin, tell me that I'm a hero. From a smell of your violent dreams, light up your body.